Okay, so like I'm not going to talk much about the introduction, as Silita has also already given the introduction. So currently, I'm working as a solution architect, and I have been associated with Red Hat product from past 15 years, handling various roles, and pretty much every day I deal with Red Hat and Red Hat based solutions. So that was a quick intro of myself. So let's get into the topic for today, which is a digital transformation using Red Hat OpenShift. So before we begin, this is the agenda for today's session. So first, I will talk about digital transformation and what is digital transformation and why organizations are behind digital transformation. And then I will also talk about containers and its benefits, followed by the key differences between a container and a virtual machine. And then we will actually talk about our topic for today, which is Red Hat OpenShift. And then I will talk about Red Hat OpenShift features and benefits. And we will conclude with the conclude the session today. And then we will talk about training and certifications from Red Hat and Amrita. Okay. So, so the first question that comes to our mind is what is digital transformation? So I have seen people talking about digital transformation and the change in technologies that the companies are using nowadays. So I thought of putting this in today's presentation because people should know uh, before learning what OpenShift is, people should know what digital transformation is, what technologies the organizations are using in the enterprise environments. Okay, so when you're talking about digital transformation, uh, it begins with organizations. Okay, when organizations adopt open approach to businesses, and the critical areas for digital transformation is culture, process, and technology. Okay, so if you look at the organizations, so digital transformation is what's happening to the organizations. Okay, and they adopt new and innovative ways to do their businesses. Okay, by using the advanced technologies. Okay, basically, digital transformation is a process of fundamentally changing something using digital tools and describes adopting the technology. Okay, and moreover, digital transformation is not a product or a solution which can be purchased, but it affects the entire IT, which touches the entire organization. Okay, so in the sense, organizations have to invest in the technology that serves employees and customers alike in ways. Okay, now true digital transformation is based on the full adoption of three main elements, which is culture, process, and technology. Okay, now if you look at the screen, so if you talk about open culture, so the cultural change can improve how your team interact with one another, ensuring ongoing process throughout and beyond digital transformation. Okay, so the key the key part for digital transformation is culture, where organizations have to change the culture of how you interact with multiple teams. Okay, so when you deploy a product or an application, there will be a lot of teams involved in building up an application. So you need to have such kind of cultural behavior or change so that the organizations can achieve digital transformation. And the next thing is open technologies. So organizations have to invest in the open source technologies, okay, which can lead a better product and services. Okay, and the next part is process. So now the process is like the entire life cycle of an application deployment. Okay, that process enables cross-functional communication and automation practices to deliver an application. Like for example, using a CI/CD process. So in the next slide, I'm going to talk about CI/CD and all these processes in detail. We will also talk about technology, culture, and process in the upcoming slides. So if you look at the screen, so there is a red triangle in between three circles, right? That is called digital transformation. So digital transformation is where your culture, technology, and process comes together to achieve the digital transformation. Okay, and now next thing is, the next question that comes to mind is, what is not digital transformation? I have seen people saying that, once you move your application from on-prem to cloud, they say that they have achieved the digital transformation. No, that is wrong. So digital transformation is not about getting to the cloud and automating your process. Okay, it's not, as I said, it's not a product or a solution to be purchased. So whenever you move your application to a cloud, you should also have the automation in place, process in place, and there should be some changes in the teams, which can have more collaborative work, so that the companies can achieve digital transformation. So just keep in mind that digital transformation is not just migrating your workloads from on-prem to cloud. So it involves various concepts or processes involved in digital transformation that we will look at in the upcoming slides. Okay, and now before we move into what containers are, or the next phase, I also wanted to talk about cloud native application deployment. Okay, so what is a cloud native application deployment? So basically, cloud native is an approach to build and run your applications, like how you wanted to build and run your application is nothing but a cloud native approach. Okay, so in this approach, we have four key components, which is microservices, which we're going to talk about in the next slide. So when you talk about containers, right, you also might have seen in your experience where you have legacy applications running on a 3-tier or n-tier architecture, right? So that is no more a concept in application deployment. So now people are going to containers, microservices. Basically, they call it as a loosely coupled microservices or the applications. Okay, so we will talk about those benefits of microservices and containers in the upcoming slides. And the next part is uh, containers are portable in deployment. Okay, so when you create a container on a laptop or on a machine running in a production environment, the container runs same because it follows some OCA standards, so that the container has the scalability or portability to run the container anywhere, irrespective of the underlying infrastructure. Okay, and next thing is, DevOps plays a crucial role in automating your application deployments by using CI/CD process. So by using CI/CD process, you can automate your application running on containers. So that is nothing but your microservices. And of course, microservices uses API-based communications. So where there is no kind of a sharing model. So all the communications happens through the APIs. Okay, so the cloud native approach is not dependent on infrastructure like public, private, or public cloud. Wherever you run the container, the cloud native deployment should have these kind of features. Okay, so even you can achieve these kind of cloud native application deployment even on-prem if you have all the four features running in your on-prem environment. Okay, so cloud native, don't assume that cloud native is only can be run on container on public clouds. No, it can be run either on a hybrid environment or on a private or public cloud environment. Okay, now the next part is, okay, so cloud native, so what are the benefits of using cloud native deployments? Okay, so by using cloud native deployment, you will get speed, resiliency, and agility. So if you look at the four circles, right? The first circle talks about, if an organization uses a cloud native deployment, they can achieve 46x. I mean, you can have more deployment frequency, that is 46 times. Okay, compared to your legacy or traditional deployments. and you will get 440 times faster lead time for any changes. So you can do a quick changes, and right after the changes, you can start deploying your application into your dev prod and your production environments. And then also you will get faster 96x faster mean time to recovery. So if something if you wanted to have some kind of a recovery for an application, you can do it much more faster than the legacy or traditional applications. Okay, and of course, when you have all these features, processes, and containers with microservices are in place, the rate of failure is very less, which is only 5x when compared to your traditional deployments. Okay, now, so the next thing is how containers help us to transform to digital transformations. Okay, as you have seen in the first slide, digital transformation talks about three things, right? Process, application, and infrastructure. Okay, now when you talk about applications, and if you guys have already have experience of close to 10-15 years, right, you might have seen various kind of applications, right? Monolithic, entire, and microservices. Okay, so monolithic application are the first applications. Okay, when so basically what you do is what organizations has done is they have big chunk of data which is running on a physical server, and if there is any changes that needs to be done on an application, they have to shut down or stop this entire application services, including the backend databases, and they have to perform all the upgrade or the patching activity, and then they have to start the applications. That's the way the monolithic application used to work. And for the monolithic, each application consumes one physical box. Subsequently, the backend database also will need one physical server to run the backend database. So then we have moved from a monolithic phase to entire phase, where in entire we had a different the whole application infrastructure has changed into three more than one tier. Like one will be front end application, one server will be having the backend hosting the backend application, and the other server will be a database application. So that you can get the downtime for the respective what you call application, whether it is a front end or back end. And then we used to perform the upgrades or activity on the entire based applications. But if you look at monolithic and entire, right? So the problem with monolithic and entire is it's a the resource usage is very high, and they are run on and every application, every part of the application needs a specific operating system, physical machine, or a virtual machine, and to revert back any changes, it needs a lot of downtime. So these are all the potential issues when you use monolithic or entire applications. Now today, now we have these entire monolithic and entire applications are now being changed to microservices. Okay, where your applications will be divided into parts, and those chunks of codes will be run separately on each container, so that your applications are loosely coupled, and you can have a maintenance only for a particular component of an application. Rather than bringing on the entire application, you can bring down only the service which is impacted or which is going to be upgraded. So that way you will get the flexibility of upgrading or managing your microservices. And it is also very easy to revert back the changes that we have done on the microservices compared to entire and monolithic. Okay, similarly, when it comes to infrastructure part, right? So as you guys are already aware that we used to have a typical data center, and where we used to have physical servers with 2 GB or 4 GB memory. As far as I know, I started working on a 2 GB physical machine, having a specific operating system installed and an application running on that physical machine. And then later, and these data centers typically used to be in the respective organizations or on-prem offices. Then slowly we move to hosted applications where data center are being hosted somewhere, and we will have a remote connectivity of remote connectivity such as site to site VPN to connect to the data centers, and where we can start deploying the application. So that was the scenario. Now from the problem with data center and hosted application is scalability. So you don't know how many VMs or how many servers you require down the lane in another maybe 2-3 years. So you don't have the flexibility or scalability of increasing your hardware. Okay. To avoid these situations, we have an approach called hybrid approach, where you can run your workloads in a hybrid environment. Let's say you can run your dev and test environments in cloud, and production environment with the critical data on-prem. It all depends upon how the organization wanted to run the show, and based on that, the organization can pick up the hybrid solution where you can span your workloads, whether it can be a VMs or a containers, across the environments. It can be a public or a hybrid solution. Now, that is the changes that we have seen so far in the infrastructure wise. Okay. Now, the next part is processes. When you talk about processes, right? Earlier, they used to follow a waterfall approach, okay, where the organizations allowed one group of researchers or developers to make changes on an application, okay, and once the changes have been done, this application will be handed over to the next team, okay. So it was a slow process, which slow process with only a few code releases per year, because as you know, waterfall, right? It's come from it will be from top to bottom. So once the team A completes the process, it goes to team B, team C, and team D. So if team D has some issues in terms of integration, again the code changes should start from team A, and it should follow the whole process. So that's the drawback with waterfall, where it needs more time, and there are less code releases per year when it comes to waterfall. Now, when it comes to agile, right? So agile deployment it's a multi-tier approach processing allowed for more agile development process. Okay, so what happens is both operators and developers, operations team and developers team, can still work separately, and you can make the team works parallelly when it comes to agile integration in terms of developments and operations. Now, later on, the software deployment moved into a phase called DevOps. Okay, so what DevOps does is it makes a tighter collaboration possible, where teams can work iteratively on components using a consistent set of tools like Jenkins or Maven, any kind of DevOps tools, and with the code that can be migrated between the teams. Okay, the code, whatever the internal teams develop, right, those can be migrated, tested, deployed on each and every phase. So we will talk about those phases in the next slides. So every team has the flexibility of checking their code at each and every phase, so that they don't have to wait for other teams to complete their piece of coding. So that helps to, that will help organizations to deploy application more faster. So that was the changes that you can see in terms of process. Now, what is the the question is how containers can help transform this digital to achieve this digital transformation. So if you observe this application infrastructure and processes, application, yes, containers can run microservices, and containers are less, are light-weighted and can be moved between the data centers, whether it can be on-prem or it can be hybrid cloud. So that is the flexibility that you can get with containers in terms of flexibility. And then DevOps is fully functional and supported by for containers. So you can get a more faster application deployment using containers. So this is the way how containers can help transform your businesses from your legacy model to a DevOps model. Okay. Now, okay. So far we have seen what digital transformation is and uh, how digital transformation can help organizations to change themselves. Now we talk about containers a bit, and in depth, like what a container is and how it works. Okay, so in terms of containers, so the first question that comes to our mind is, what are containers? Okay, so what is a container? What is the definition of a container? So it all depends upon who you ask. Okay, containers serves different purposes. So it all depends upon who you ask. So if you ask a system admin or an operation person, like if you ask him what a container is, he will tell them that it is just a sandbox application, a process is on a shared Linux kernel. Okay, so container is in terms of DevOps, a container is nothing but a combination of processes. Okay, and then the second point the second point is containers are simple, lighter, and denser than virtual machines. Okay, so remember this point. We will focus this second point in the upcoming slides. Why it is denser? We will see why containers are less denser or lighter than virtual machines. Okay, and the third point that he can focus is portability. So as I said, containers has the portability to run on any infrastructure, be it your laptop or an on-prem server or on a cloud environment. Okay, but the same question, if you ask a developer, he says like container is nothing but a package of application with all its dependencies. Okay, so as per developer, a container is a collection of his software code and some dependencies. Okay, and the second point he talks about container is containers can enable CI/CD process in the environment for a faster application deployment. Okay, and containers are easily accessible and share containerized components, and it can also be shared across multiple environments. So these are the two different variants of containers. So when you ask various teams inside an organization, now the next thing is what containers can do. So when you talk about a container, right? So containers enables efficiency and automation for microservices. Okay, of course it can also support traditional applications, and I think in the OpenShift release 4 they also have OpenShift also have uh, containerized virtualization, where you can run a traditional VM on top of a container, where the organizations can also move their traditional applications onto a container. So that's the I think the newest feature which has come in Red Hat OpenShift. Okay, and the second point is it's enable faster and more consistent deployments and from development to production. So we will talk about CI/CD process. So there we will talk about how containers helps faster deployments from development to a production environment. Okay, so that life cycle, it will help to enhance the application lifecycle management using CI/CD process. Okay, of course, as I said, containers enables the portability across the infrastructure footprints. It can be a physical, virtual, private, or public cloud environment. Okay, now, so when I talk about container benefits, right? So in terms of a developer, okay, as I said, containers can help to build cloud native applications. So you know, right, what cloud native application is. So containers can help, develop cloud native apps. Containers will also simplify packaging, and it also helps developer to speed up or simplify the entire testing process of an application. So those are the key benefits of uh, to developers in terms of containers. For an IT operations, okay, so the advantages of containers is consistent app deployments, and it also helps in automated app deployments, improved app performance, and multi-cloud consistency. Okay, so when I say improved app performance, OpenShift has an inbuilt feature of auto scaling of your applications. In Red Hat OpenShift 4, you also have the option of scaling your OpenShift nodes as well. So based on the performance of the application, it can automatically spin up a container. All things are automated. So that's the way it improves the IT operations. Okay. And the next thing is multi-cloud consistency. As I said, containers can span across multiple environments. So you will have the flexibility to run the same VM which is running on an on-prem. You can run the same VM on a public cloud without any additional configuration changes. Okay. And the next part is the important thing, that is for business leaders. So how containers can benefit business. Okay. So for a business, it's enable DevOps culture, enable hybrid culture. When I say DevOps, container enables DevOps culture. When I say DevOps culture, it speeds up your organization application deployment life cycle so that the organization can adapt the changes quickly, deploy a new version of application, and it can go to market very quickly. So that's the advantage of using containers with DevOps. Of course, enable hybrid cloud. So business can, your containers will help to manage, help, move the containers across the environments. Okay. And the other important point is it reduces the VM licensing cost. So you don't have to spend additional VM licenses for every, for every virtual machine you have to have your own licensing, right? But for pod you don't have to have any licenses for each pod. So the licenses is only for an application or for an OpenShift node, not for a container. Okay. Of course, when all this been enabled, you can accelerate your app dev lifecycle. So with all these features, organization can accelerate the application and deployment life cycles, which can speed up the application deployments. Okay, so these are some of the common benefits of using containers. And the next thing is, the next important question is, what is the difference between a virtual machine and a container? So in terms of virtual machine, I'm not going to spend much on this slide because you guys might have already worked on these virtual machines. So typically, a virtual machine needs a hardware where an hypervisor is installed on top of the hardware, where you can start deploying the VMs, and on top of those VMs, you can start deploying the applications. It can be application or it can be any database server. Okay, the advantage of VM is VMs are isolated, and the problem is every VM needs to have a specific complete operating system, and both computer and memory are static in nature, and it also needs the virtual machine also needs high resources because your application is tightly coupled with the VM operating system. Okay. On the other hand, if you talk about containers, okay, so containers typically needs hardware. When I say hardware, it can be, as I said, it can be a on-prem physical machine, or it can be a public cloud environment. It can be anything. Okay, all it needs is a container host, okay, where it can run containers, and when it has a container host running on the hardware, on the kernel, it can start deploying the containers. Okay, and in the container will have application code and the required operating system dependencies to run the application. So that is nothing but a collection of processes and files which can form a container. So the advantage of using container is containers are isolated. Each and every container is isolated, and all the containers share a common kernel. And if you look at the virtual machine, every VM will have its own kernel, and when compared to container, it doesn't need any inbuilt kernel in the container. So the container can use the host kernel itself. It's a shared kernel. And as I said, the containers memory, you can increase and memory and CPU or the compute resources on the fly for these containers. Okay, and of course, when your application is not tightly coupled with an guest operating system, the resources utilized by the containers are very low compared to VM. So the final take from this particular slide is containers are lightweight. It doesn't need a specific OS to run because the container uses the host kernel, host shared kernel. Okay. Now, next thing is, okay, so far we have seen what a virtual machine and what a container is, right? Now, we will look into the portability of the VM. Okay, so virtual machines are not portable across the hypervisors. Okay, and it does not provide any portability, especially in terms of applications. Okay, I will give you a scenario. Let's say I have a virtual machine running on my laptop using VMware Workstation or any kind of hypervisor, and I'm running an application in my one of my VM in my laptop, and when I move the application to any one of my virtualized environments like Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization Hypervisor or a VMware hypervisor, I cannot guarantee that the application works as it is on this environment. Okay, same goes with your bare metal or private cloud or public cloud. So when you move the VM across the environments, you will have some challenges in terms of portability, where you need to reconfigure or redeploy the application based on the underlying infrastructure. So that is the problem with the container. So containers, so that's the problem with the virtual machine, sorry. Okay, so to avoid that one, we are moving to the container portion. So where application portability with containers. So you can achieve the portability with containers across the platforms. Let's say I have a laptop and I am running a container on my laptop. Okay, and once my deployment of application is complete, I can migrate the same container or move the same container to any environment, either on a container running on a bare metal, container running on a virtualized environment, or we can copy it to a private cloud and public cloud. Okay, so what happens is wherever the container is run, it behaves same. There is no change in the container behavior, irrespective of your underlying hardware. That is the advantage of using containers. So, for example, I can give you a small example. So, if a developer has asked to develop an application, so usually the developer will write code in his laptop, test the code in his laptop, and then he runs the code in his laptop and everything is good, and then he is ready to deploy that into a test or QA stage before deploying it to production. So when he copies that code or the virtual machine to the production environment, sorry, into the other environments, it behaves in a different way because the underlying environment has changed. So that portability will not be getting by virtual machines. But with a container, because the container, as I said, it has the application code followed by the OS dependencies. Okay, so this OS dependencies will also be copied whenever you copy a container to other environments. So that is a portability that you get when you use containers. Okay, now the next thing is containers provide high density and efficiency at the expense of isolation. So what it does, so of course, if you use a hypervisor with a virtual machine environment, you can spin up to 10 VMs. but this 10 VMs is just a nominal one. It all depends upon the RAM and CPU that the physical machine is having. Based on that, you can create 10, 20, or maybe 30 VMs based on the requirement. But the same host, when you're running a containerized environment, you can run up to 100 containers per server. Okay, so in that case, the density of running a containers are more compared to virtual machines. Okay, and now the next part is provisioning time. So when you wanted to provision environment, right? So the physical machine will take up to 27 hours. Okay? When I say provisioning, it all involves like installation, configuration, hardening, and that kind of stuff, which needs 27 hours because physical server needs a lot of activities like cabling, racking, stacking, and all this stuff. When compared to virtual machine, you need minimum 12 minutes, but it might take more time as well because you need to test and do hardening and that kind of stuff for virtual machines. Minimum is 12 minutes if you have an automated scripts for your hardening things. But when it comes to your container instance, it all needs just a 10 seconds to create a container. So this will help you to bring your application more faster compared to virtual machine or physical machine. Okay. Now, okay. So far we have seen what DevOps is and how containers can help achieve DevOps, right? So now we will talk about Red Hat OpenShift, which is our topic for today. Okay. So what is Red Hat OpenShift? So Red Hat OpenShift is an enterprise-ready Kubernetes container platform. Okay. With full stack automated operations. So we'll talk about full stack automated operations in the upcoming slides. I have a slide for that one. So you will see what all activities that you can automate using full stack automation in Red Hat OpenShift, okay, which can manage hybrid clouds and multi-cloud deployments. Okay, now you can also manage multiple OpenShift cluster using cloud.redhat.com, where you can register all your OpenShift cluster to cloud.redhat.com, and you can manage all the clusters from one single pane. Okay, of course, Red Hat is optimized to improve developer productivity and promote innovation. So because OpenShift uses containers at the backend, right, which can improve the developer productivity by using the CI/CD tools, and which can help to promote the innovation for an organization. Okay. Now, so before we move on, so I just want to talk about container challenges. Okay. So people might think that, okay, we already have containers, then why do we need OpenShift? So containers have its own challenges. So the challenge is the container security is the biggest challenge, like image scanning, patching, and compliance of containers is the biggest challenge. And the next important point is day two management. Okay, so all the day two activities like installation, upgrades, and maintenances is a key challenge when you use containers alone. Okay, and of course, even if you use containers, you need to have some kind of uh, testing and monitoring at the back end, right? Monitoring, metering, and management of your deployment tools. All these things are a key challenges for containers. So you can run a container, but if it is 5 or 10 containers, you can manage. If there are hundreds of containers, it will be difficult to manage for an organization. So these are all the key challenges if you run a containers directly onto your course. So these challenges have been addressed in Red Hat OpenShift. Okay, so Red Hat OpenShift, as I said, it is a trusted enterprise Kubernetes platform. Okay, with full stack automated. Just hold on for the second. This full stack automated I will explain in the the upcoming slide. And of course, it supports over-the-air updates. You can update OpenShift environment by connecting to the Red Hat software repository, and you can also manage the day two management. Okay, like installation, upgradation, maintenance of your OpenShift cluster environment. So that is the advantage of using Red Hat OpenShift. So ideally, Red Hat OpenShift will take care of all the activities performed for a day-to-day activities. So it can all be automated. Okay. Of course, OpenShift provides a cloud-like experience anywhere. It can support hybrid multi-cluster management. And OpenShift 4 also has an operator framework. I'm not talking about much on this one because it needs a lot of time. It's an automated software where you can deploy the plugins onto OpenShift environment. It also has operator hub and certified independent software vendors which support OpenShift. Okay? When I say independent software vendors, there are a lot of other software vendors which support OpenShift, and they have their own plugins incorporated into OpenShift environment. Okay, and of course for developers also, it has some features like Istio, Knative, and code-ready workspaces. So we'll not talk about much of these things. So these things are the some of the products that are helpful for developers. Okay, coming back to architecture, right? So in the architecture, as I said, like full stack automated installation, right? So OpenShift is an automated full stack installation platform. Okay, uh, if you look at the architecture, as I said, your OpenShift can pretty much run on any hardware, starting from physical server to a public cloud environment. And all it needs is a Red Hat Core OS operating system, and a Kubernetes service will be run on each node on top of this RHEL Core OS. And OpenShift also have some cluster services which helps to perform the on-air updates, monitoring your application, registry where your images are saved internally in your OpenShift environment. It also helps you to create networking, load balancing features, routers, and KubeVirt is what is something like, as I said, right? It's a virtualization on OpenShift, and you have OLM, lifecycle management, and Helm. These are some of the cluster services which OpenShift supports. And apart from that, it has a different services for platform, application, and developer. For a platform, OpenShift can also run Service Mesh, which is a serverless application that you can run. You can also use CI/CD pipeline to deploy your applications. It also supports full stack logging. Coming back to application services, OpenShift also has a lot of runtime supports and database languages support. And there are a lot of other ISU independent software vendors which support OpenShift, and it has been available by default whenever you install your OpenShift. So when I say default, the runtime is nothing but a software. Okay, if you say, you can say it can be a PHP, MySQL, or Java, Node.js. So these are all the runtimes that are available as soon as you install your OpenShift cluster. Okay, for developer, you will have the option of using CLI, which is VS Code. Some plugins you can use these extensions to automate your deployment lifecycle, and you also have a code-ready workspace and containers. So these are all the overall architecture of architecture or components that OpenShift can give an organizations to build up their applications. Okay, and then now the next point is how OpenShift can enable the ops productivity. Okay, so in terms of operation productivity, you have seen this. I've told you, right? OpenShift is a fully automated day one and day two operations. Okay, so what all OpenShift can do? So OpenShift, if you observe, it can install, deploy, harden, and operate your OpenShift cluster environment. Okay, all the four things can be automated. There is no human intervention required in terms of implementation. Okay, so when in terms of installation, your OpenShift 4 supports infrastructure provisioning with an embedded OS, which is RHEL Core OS, which can also install and configure the required underlined what you call OpenShift nodes, and it also deploy. It can do a full stack deployment, and the full stack deployment can be on an on-prem or it can be on a public cloud. Okay, so all you need to do is at the time of installation, you need to select what type of on which environment you're trying to deploy this OpenShift cluster, whether it is on VMware or it is on cloud or whether it is on Red Hat Virtualization Platform or libvirt platform. Based on that, the installer will ask you a series of questions like username, password, and that kind of stuff. When you give those things, your OpenShift will do an automated full stack deployment. When I say full stack, it is nothing but deploying the required underlying OpenShift nodes to installing your OpenShift container platform. That is a full stack deployment, right from scratch to the deployment of your OpenShift cluster. And for the hardening, okay, you have your network isolations, audit, logs, and authorization. Like you can integrate your OpenShift platform with your AD, LDAP environments, and you can also configure your container-based security using your SELinux policies. That way, your OpenShift can also harden your environment. And in terms of operations, your OpenShift has inbuilt monitoring and alerting system where you can monitor the application, and based on the application monitoring requirement, it can auto scale up your applications. So if the utilization reaches to 80%, you can set a threshold so that as soon as it reaches to that threshold, your OpenShift can spin up the one more pod by using HPA, automatic pod autoscaler. Okay. So, and the next important thing is zero downtime upgrades. So when I say upgrades, these upgrades can be your OpenShift node upgrades, or it can be also your application upgrade. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about this one because it needs more time, like to describe the zero downtime upgrades. But if I say, I can also correlate zero downtime upgrades, something like rolling upgrades. So you can do a rolling upgrade on the platform. Okay, you do a rolling upgrade on each and every OpenShift node, and which helps to achieve the zero downtime. Okay, of course you will have all the vulnerability scanning by using. You can also integrate your an OpenShift environment with Red Hat Satellite, where Satellite can give you some Satellite and Insights, where it can give you some suggestions for the vulnerability and scanning. So that way you can automate even your day-to-day operations using the OpenShift environment. So these are some of the advantages of, especially for the operations team, I mean, like system admins. And coming back to developers, so developers, as I said, right, OpenShift for developers, it has, as I said, OpenShift comes with default databases, runtimes, functions, and microservices, where if you look at all the things, right, build, test, deploy, monitor, review, and code, right, this is your CI/CD life cycle process. Sorry, not CI/CD, DevOps life cycle. So by using your OpenShift container platform, developers can achieve DevOps principles like build, test, deploy, and monitor your application and review the application. And again, after the review, you can recode to enhance your application deployments. So that's what you can achieve using OpenShift environment. And it also support self-service provisioning. The developer can provision his own containers based on the requirement. And also, as I said, OpenShift can run on any platform where the application can run consistently across the environment, irrespective of the underlying hardware. And of course, all the process is automated for the build and deployment. You can integrate, developers can integrate CI/CD pipelines with OpenShift to automate the entire lifecycle process. You can also do configuration management, like how you can want to configure your environment, and you can manage the configuration using the OpenShift web UI or OpenShift environment. Of course, your application will have logs, metrics, where you can monitor your logs, monitor the metrics, and based on the metrics, you can decide the resources required for the application, and you can automate the entire process of, for the developers. So these are some of the advantages, especially for developers, in terms of building and testing the applications. Okay, and compared to For the OpenShift, right, OpenShift has three variants like OpenShift Container Platform, OpenShift Dedicated, and Online. Okay, and before we move on to these things, OpenShift, the upstream product is Red Hat Origin. Okay, and when I say upstream, these are all the open source products like Kubernetes. You can see this Kubernetes. Ansible is nothing but your AWX. They call AWX in open source, and you have Atomic Host, you have Buildify. All these things are open source product where Red Hat gives us the enterprise level of support to the OpenShift products, where the enterprise version of OpenShift Origin is Red Hat Container Platform. Okay, so we'll talk about these three things in the next slide. So Red Hat Container Platform, right? It's a enterprise-ready Kubernetes platform, especially deployed on an deployed and managed by the customer either on a public or on a private data center. Okay, so OpenShift Container Platform is the one which is managed by the organization or the end user. Okay, when it comes to OpenShift Dedicated, okay, it provides a managed OpenShift environment in public cloud such as AWS, GPS. Okay, and this OpenShift cluster is managed by Red Hat. Okay, so you can you can request the access for this Red Hat Dedicated when you have a proper subscription from your Red Hat portals. Okay, so and coming back to online, so OpenShift Online provides a hosted and public container orchestration platform that offers an application deployment. So in this one, right, Red Hat will manage only the cluster lifecycle management. The underlying hardware, like OpenShift nodes, hardware will be managed by the public cloud vendors. When it comes to dedicated, Red Hat manages everything for you, including the hardware, because it is managed by Red Hat. But when it comes to online, Red Hat will be liable for, Red Hat can manage your OpenShift cluster environment. Okay? And of course, apart from these things, we also have code-ready containers, where you can run your minimal installation of OpenShift on your laptop for your local testing and experiment of your OpenShift environment. Okay. So that is all about the container platform version that we have. And then these are some of the services that you get it with OpenShift. OpenShift is a self-service. It supports multiple languages and runtimes. You can automate every process. You can get the collaboration. Multiple teams can work together, and you can improve the process. You will have seamless integration. Team can seamlessly integrate your applications with other products, and you will get all the security, enterprise-grade support from Red Hat for the OpenShift. Of course, OpenShift is an open source OCA standards. Of course, it is a web scale. Everything can be managed through web or through command prompt using the OC command. And OpenShift follows the OCA standard, where the containers can run on any platform, because the containers are using open standards. So that's the advantage of using OpenShift, where your containers will have the portability or scalability to run on any hardware. Okay. Coming back to OpenShift features, right? So as I said, the features, especially for platform, right? You will have the scalability when you use OpenShift. When I say scalability, you will have the portability to move your workloads or the containers anywhere, irrespective of the underlying hardware. Similarly, multi-cluster federation, you can manage your multiple OpenShift cluster using the Red Hat OpenShift. And then, of course, OpenShift also support persistent storage, so that your data will be saved in the persistent storage. And you also have a lot of plugins or operators which can support third-party storage vendors, where OpenShift can also integrate with third-party storage vendors, where your data can be saved in the persistent storage. And of course, your OpenShift uses open source standards, which is OCI and CNCF. They call it as Open Container Initiative, or they call it as Cloud Native Cloud Computing, to to maintain the standards of the container, OpenShift follows this open source standards. Okay, and then of course, as I said, you will have the portability to move these containers anywhere when you use OpenShift on containers. Okay, and when it comes to developer productivity, as I said, developers will have the facility of self-service provisioning of the resources in terms of application or pods. And of course, it has multi-language support where it supports multiple runtimes. It has a lot of application runtimes, Java, PHP, and other runtimes where developers can straight away use those runtimes to run their applications. And of course, OpenShift, you can integrate OpenShift with CI/CD pipelines to automate the entire process of deploying the application and speed up the application deployment. And then, of course, user interfaces, you can configure the user interfaces, integrate OpenShift with multiple authentication mechanisms, and based on the permission assigned to that user, he will try to get access, whether it can be an admin or a developer or an auditor kind of role where he will have a view role of the OpenShift. Okay, and then of course the next important thing for developer is source to image deployment. So source to image deployment is a workflow for building reproducible container images from the source code. Okay, so if a developer has a source code, he can build up a container using that source code, using the source to image concept. So we're not talking about much into things because each and every component here, whatever, though it looks like a small box, it is a separate topic by itself. It needs 1-2 days to explain and understand. Okay, so this is also one more important thing for developers, which is source to image. They call it as S2I. Okay, and for the businesses, okay, it is OpenShift helps with automated installation and upgrades, which eliminates the human intervention and human errors when they're upgrading or installing the OpenShift cluster. And yes, as I said, everything is like OpenShift is fully automated. This fully automated stack, right from the infrastructure provisioning to the container provisioning, is all automated. So that is the advantages, especially for businesses or organizations. And next thing is, of course, this is a robust ecosystem where you can integrate your application, run your application on the OpenShift environment. And because OpenShift supports multiple hardware vendors, multiple infrastructures, right from on-prem to public clouds. Okay. Okay, so this is the last slide. I think I can wind this up in another 2 minutes. So as a conclusion, right? So OpenShift is an integrated platform which includes container, host, Kubernetes, and application lifecycle management, using your choice of infrastructure. That is a key point. So all these things can be run on your choice of infrastructure. Okay, that's a key point. And the next thing is, by using OpenShift, you can achieve the greater value for operations and development teams. So you have seen, right, the advantages for developers and operators when you use OpenShift, right? So that you can achieve by using Red Hat OpenShift. And of course, OpenShift is more secure, valid container content and services from a wide partner ecosystem. So OpenShift, as I said, right, there are a lot of individual software vendors who are supporting Red Hat OpenShift, and they are integrating their product into Red Hat OpenShift so that your OpenShift will be able to manage the third-party devices, like provisioning the storages, or running something like running your what you call Nginx routers on OpenShift. They're all the enhancement that the other vendors are also working with Red Hat closely to improve the integration portion. Okay, and of course, with all this in hand, OpenShift will have a faster application deployment life cycles, and where you can install upgrades and in a very less time, or it doesn't need any downtime, especially for installing or upgrading your applications. Of course, when you have everything automated in an environment such as OpenShift, it has a lower IT operation cost because everything is automated, and you don't have any specific, you don't need to have a big team to manage the entire OpenShift cluster. So everything is automated, and it can be managed with a less resources, and which can also adds portability across the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud footprints. Okay, so that's all I have for today. And before we wind up, I just wanted to walk you through with the training and certification programs that we have. Okay, in terms of Red Hat OpenShift trainings, right? So we have four versions of four different what you call courses for OpenShift. Of course, you also have D080. That's a fundamental course, but I have not mentioned it here. But you have D0180, 280, 380, followed by 425. So basically, this 180 is just an introduction to containers and Kubernetes and Red Hat OpenShift. So in this, you will talk about, you will understand what a container is, what OpenShift is, how you can manage container images, and basic stuff from this course. Okay? And coming part to 280, they call it as OpenShift Administration 1. Okay, so you in this course you basically learn about how you manage your OpenShift cluster. When I say manage in terms of authentication, accessing, giving the rollback access, creating the networking, configuring your pods, scheduling your pods, scaling your pods, and monitoring your clusters. So basically, pretty much managing your cluster will be discussed in the 280 course. And coming part to 380, it's kind of an advanced course that you need to do after doing 280. And this course talks about how you can automate OpenShift management using Ansible playbooks, creating and scheduling cluster administration jobs, like how you can manage your cluster admin jobs that you do, and how you can integrate with GitOps, integrate with Jenkins, and managing the storage, especially how you can add the storage to your OpenShift environment. So, and how you can manage your machine sets and machine configurations in this entire 380 course. So this is a pretty much advanced course. And you need to complete 280 in order to understand 380. Okay, so that's the requirement for 380. So the sequence would be like, if you are new to a training, you can go with 180, then 280 and 380. So if you have the basic understanding of what OpenShift is and what a container is, you can straight away jump to 280. It all depends upon your selection of things. Then you can complete 280, and once you are comfortable with the cluster administration, you can opt for 380, where it talks about more advanced what you call capabilities of cluster will be discussed in 380 course. And this 180, 280, and 380, I think you can have the course on OpenShift 4. But coming back to Red Hat Container Security, this course is on OpenShift 3.11. This course, hopefully, Red Hat might come up with a OpenShift 4 version on for 4 to 5 as well. So this 4 to 5 talks about the security, basically, like how to implement security in a container, integrate web application, single sign-on, configuring container context constraint, they call it as CSS, all those things, API, securing your network, securing your storage, securing your APIs. Mostly all the security concept for an OpenShift environment will be discussed in 4 to 5. So again, the flow will be 280, 380, and then 4 to 5. So that's the flow. If you can follow, you will have the better understanding of how OpenShift work, so that you'll be starting it from scratch to understand what an OpenShift is, and finally you will end up with security, how you can manage the security for for your container-based environments. Okay, so you can reach out to Srilata or someone you can reach out to Srilata Amrita, so she can guide you with the pricing or what do you call the training requirements, training details, and the other things. You can talk with Srilata and you can contact this number. So that's all I have. Hope we can meet up again and we can explore more on Red Hat OpenShift. Okay. Thank you for joining. I think Shweta, you can take over.
Thanks, Arvind, for this knowledgeable webinar. We have